into the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 12th. Today is World Arthritis Day, National Vermont Day, National Savings Day, National Gumbo Day, National Farmers Day, and National Free Thought Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially on YouTube, to our channel, as well as all of our other social media platforms. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
You are tuned in to the High.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah, that's right, man. Happy day today. It's hump day. And starting off today is going to be the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte, who is currently on the injured reserve list right now, doing nothing but daddy daycare. He's actually banned from TEDx conventions right now because he got caught sharing the wrong people's paste. But nonetheless, if you're wondering why he's injured, it's because he got tripped up over CRT and all of his backpedaling on Safe Banking and Safe Banking Plus. Oh, yeah, that's right. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Hate. Can you guys hear me okay? I was having a little technical difficulties earlier. All right, good stuff. All right, so I just can't hear myself because my headphones. All right, so my story, thank you for that beautiful introduction, Jason. And the backpedaling is finished now that I don't have Achilles to backpedal on. So I hope you're ready for my onslaught of information.
That is
All
right.
right, so my story today is from Forbes by Benjamin Adams. California Department of Cannabis Control tackles lab shopping. Lab shopping. The act of paying a premium to have your product tested at Lab B because Lab A's results revealed it wasn't quite dank enough. I mean, when the public's appetite calls for consistent 30% or higher THC levels, it's not realistic or logical. And we've stated several times on our show, THC levels alone don't determine the quality of cannabis consumed, but you got to give the people what they want to move units. And this is why the illegal practice has become one of the biggest open secrets in the market. A capitalist elephant in the room, breathing in as much secondhand smoke as possible and lining the pockets of your favorite shady lab facility as the race to the bottom continues. According to Forbes, California cannabis consumers' obsession with unrealistic THC levels has finally reached the point where Department of Cannabis Control is gathering public opinion on how to handle lab shopping most effectively. Lab shopping has become commonplace in a young industry flooded with marketers more focused on promoting the merits of potency rather than educating about entourage effect and terpene profiles. So the DCC is proposing a long overdue change to adopt standardized cannabinoid testing methods for licensed labs in an effort to practice in an effort to end the practice that may or may not be the reason your favorite lab is no longer around. Looking at you, CannaSafe. Under Senate Bill 544, the DCC is required to establish standardized cannabinoid testing methods by January 1st, 2023. The proposed regulations were first released to the public last summer and accompanied by multiple public comment periods, the latest of which ends October 20th. The agency's been marinating in remedy recommendations aimed at better accuracy, and on October 4th, the latest round of proposed changes was released. Initially, under the new proposed regulations, the DCC would limit standardized testing to dried flower and pre-rolls. Changes reflecting the most prominent community feedback, allowing opportunity for additional scientific study that'll eventually be applied to the holistic body of manufactured cannabis products. In their notice of further modifications to proposed text and modified text regulation, the agency provides an opportunity for public participation and to adopt the regulations through public comment process. I'm interested in hearing everybody else's thoughts on this, though. Will it be the final nail in the coffin for the plague of inflated THC percentages, or is this bill just another practice in government overreach? I am Rico Lamitte, dopest dad in the street, and you guys are tuned into High at 9 News. What do you guys say about this, Jason and Nicole? Like, is this actually going to work? Is going to have people stop looking at THC numbers, or are they just going to be the same old shit?
Until you educate the general public that THC percentage is not the most smartest way to purchase cannabis when choosing it on the counter, this is never going to be a fix.
So the headline read that it tackles, right? And so I kind of like in my mind went to like sports analogies of like it for sure didn't tackle shit. Like a tackle is like bringing that shit down to the ground when you tackle somebody. It like did a quick juke, you know, where you like side by side paying enough attention to the consumer portion of it for this to like Jason said, like we have to fucking educate people, because when your consumer comes in, and I tell people can fucking hate on like a Stizzy or a cookies all they want. But if your fucking customer walks into the door a few times and says, I want a Stizzy pod, and you don't find a Stizzy pod for them or find them a product that makes them happy, like you're failing your customer, right? And
you're gonna lose them as a customer.
You're gonna lose them as a customer. And so
well, I definitely agree with you. Like on that, you think it should lie on the actual companies making the products, or do you think the government should step in?
Well, I think the government has never made a good decision when it comes to cannabis. So I think that should be like the umbrella that we're all standing under right now. But, you know, I just want to get back to what Nicole is saying. Nicole and Jason, it will always be the consumer that is driving the demand. A lab is just a business at the end of the day. They want more clients. They want to do more tests.
They want higher THC numbers too.
Yeah, how do they sell it? How are they selling themselves at these conferences? You know what I mean? Like that's
right.
There's not enough standardization on the actual methods in which they're doing. There's several methods that can be approved. The ISO standards are, laboratory standards, but those aren't necessarily giving them what they need for cannabis as a laboratory testing. It's like, this is a scientific analytical lab and they're doing all of those things. But we don't really have like a consistent way that everybody's doing it. For the
That's
most
for
part,
sure.
HPLC is the method being used for the most part, but I mean, there are even some states that are actively using GCs still, which the difference, HPLC is high performance liquid chromatography, and GC is gas chromatography. HPLC basically takes the product, fucking breaks it all down, immerses it into a liquid, and then pulls everything out of that liquid. Gas chromatography actually combusts the product. So when you're looking at gas chromatography, people have said that you get a better accuracy as far as the available THC when you light that shit on fire on a GC. There's a lot of scientists that'll stand behind it and be like, GC will give you a more accurate result of what you'll get when you combust said products, because what you're getting is a potential available when HPLC. They pull it all out and then they're like, hey, this is how much THC Delta 9 is available, THCA is available. And on that conversion rate, if you light that on fire, we're assuming that you're going to get about 85% of that available product. So that's why when you see those lists of like THC, Delta 9, THCA, and all of that. And then it goes down to the bottom. And you're like, if you added all those up, it's higher than the number that you get. And that's even fucking crazier is people are looking at these things and have zero concept of what that means. Like people think that when you see 30% THC, that means 30% of the weight by volume is THC, but it's not. It's the available oils in that product. And so like people don't even understand what they're looking at when they're looking at testing. Like there was a flower at Hall Flowers that was 49% THC. It would look like meth, guys. It would look like
not to mention, I think not to mention too, I think the general public really needs to know the fact that your body can only soak up so much THC. Like if you imagine your body as a sponge can only pick up so much water at a time. And so your body can only absorb so much THC at the same time anyway. So these numbers don't mean shit. But we do have Nick Bradley in the Clubhouse audience to chime in on this. Nick, do you have a brief comment on this?
I do. I have two parts to this real quick. So I think everybody in the industry can understand and accept that we need standardized testing, right? But I just want to touch on the fact that Rico and this article both talk about lab shopping for THC percentages. And I think that the majority of the people need to know that a lot of people go to different labs because labs take a long ass time, or we're taking a long time to get results. And in order to put products on the shelf, you need to have a test result, right?
Nothing takes that long anymore, though, Nick. Everything's 72 hours or less. Every lab across the state, if you're pulling less than 4 days,
72 hour turnaround.
Yeah, 72-hour turnaround.
Yeah. And a lot of people are testing at multiple labs to make sure their percentages are accurate across the board. So I have 4 or 5 clients that tested two or three percentages, or 2 or 3 different labs, to make sure that they're getting the same percentages because they get such high percentages at specific labs, and they're getting the same across the board. So
people that are getting the same across the board are not lab shoppers, though, Nick. And that's the variable here, because the lab shopping is happening on an active basis where people will send what's called an R&D test. An R&D test is not required to be registered through Metric or through the tracking system. So they'll send out an R&D test for potency to 5 different fucking labs and see whose R&D comes back best. And then they'll send the COA there. That is happening on a daily fucking basis. And then people will choose that lab to work with moving forward because they've R&D'd a bunch, and this one always pops highest.
I mean, it just goes back to my question before. Like, if it's a simple supply and demand, if the market is demanding that you have higher cannabis or higher THC levels in the products, then somebody's going to provide them, whether it's legally or illegally. So my question remains, like, is this what we actually need government for? We need government to step in and educate the people about
the reality
profiles. Right.
How these labs operate is the most unregulated component of the entire supply chain in California.
Right.
Nah, bro, distro, go fuck yourself.
I'm gonna
go ahead and use that to jump to Jason back.
Do we have Ghost Labs too? We have Ghost Labs and Ghost Distros.
You know it.
Yeah. Distros are the worst. Anyways, Mr. Jason Beck, member of whatever political party might piss you off the most, longest running retailer in the history of regulated cannabis, and also the highest Republican. Jason, what do you have for us today?
Oh, man, I have some trigger warnings for you guys today because my story is a bunch of prohibitionist rhetoric coming from across the pond. Where my story, the headline, get ready for this, everybody. Put your seatbelts on because you're going to get triggered. Cannabis is now as dangerous as heroin and crack. A liberal approach is not progress. It's madness. The catalog of cruelty towards children in modern Britain is a long one. Even so, the case of Lee Carnell and his ex-girlfriend Sarah Lamb still stands out for its depravity. In July this year, a court in Hull heard how a pair created a home of such squalor for their 5 young children that human excrement was smeared on the walls. Broken glass lay on uncarpeted floor, and swarms of flies flew around piles of dirty nappies, which I'm assuming is diapers in the UK. It strikes me that a key reason for this gross unfitness of Carnell and Lab was obvious. They were both heavy cannabis users, spending at least 40 pounds a week on their habit and openly smoking weed in front of their children. Now, 40 pounds a week is probably about $60 US dollars, $65 when you break that down. So just to give you guys some comparison. But nonetheless, sending them to jail, the judge said the pair were guilty of assault by neglect. Sadly, this saga was just another example of pernicious influence of cannabis in our society. This is nothing soft about this drug. Its impact can be brutal, damaging lives and promoting crime. And the public policy should be based on that hard reality. Indeed, I shudder at demands for a more liberal approach to cannabis and believe we should move in the opposite direction by reclassifying cannabis as a Class A substance, the category reserved for the most harmful drugs, following reports that Home Secretary Suella Braverman was said to be considering such a move. It's disappointing to hear that the Prime Minister has no plans for reclassification. Make no mistake, this stuff does the same harm as crack and heroin. Cannabis advocates love to insist on the harmlessness of just a bit of weed, conveniently forgetting it has been identified as a factor in numerous random acts of violence, such as the incident in the London Underground in 2021 when Ricky Morgan lashed out at a commuter with a machete. It emerged at his trial that he told his psychiatrist he'd first started using cannabis at the age of 12. Not really seeing the correlation there, but we will proceed. In 2019, Raphael Chavou, described in court as a heavy cannabis user, attacked 5 people with a knife in a Manchester shopping center. That is why the growing pressure to decriminalize, even legalize the use of cannabis is so dangerous. Yet it is a campaign that is spreading rapidly across the Western world, especially in Europe and North America. In the U.S., no fewer than 18 states, including California, have gone down the road of legalization, as has the Netherlands on this side of the Atlantic, while Portugal and Spain have opted for decriminalization. In London, Mayor Sadiq Khan has set up a commission to examine the case after allowing for the open sale of cannabis in the capital, a step many liberals support, partially in the misguided belief that this drug is essentially harmless. Nothing could be further from the truth, as I know from my work as police and crime commissioner for Dorset, where I've made drugs reduction a top priority, but also from past experiences as a marketing director in the pharmaceutical industry, where I learned cannabis can be a serious threat to a person's mental and physical health. Supporters of decriminalization prefer to ignore such hard scientific facts, and which I haven't read yet in this article, but nonetheless, and argue that softening the law will usher in a host of benefits. These supposedly include an end to the stranglehold criminal gangs have on the drug trade and the diversion of police resources into the fight against real offenders rather than the harassment of recreational users. In fact, decriminalization experiments have inevitably proved to be disastrous. In California, for instance, an illicit cannabis trade in California is now flourishing as never before and accounts for between 80 to 90% of all sales. I wonder where they got those numbers from, thanks to the expansion of the market and the ability of illegal dealers to undercut tax-paying and therefore more expensive illegal traders. Similarly, in Holland, the mayor of Amsterdam, Femke Halsema, is pushing for a ban on tourists from coffee shops to serve cannabis in order to tackle the problem behavior on hard drug criminality. And in Portugal, Mayor Rui Moreira believes in reintroducing bans to get lawlessness related to cannabis availability under control. He told me as much earlier this year. We should hardly be surprised that these U-turns on so many fronts. Cannabis is a menace to health, especially because it tends to be more powerful than in the past. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a whole bunch of prohibitionist rhetoric, but we also need to be aware of what the prohibitionists are saying and keep close eyes on what they're doing and all of their fake news. And this is Jason Beck reporting for High at 9 News.
I just love Jason riding for the liberal approach here. Protected.
Are you sure that was a real article, Jason?
That was 100% a real article. Yes.
That guy's a real article. I sent it to Jason because I was reading articles last night and 2 nights ago, and I was like, this is fucking insane. And Sean Kiernan actually just commented on it. Author background: David Sedgwick is a British politician who was elected as the Conservative Dorset Police and Crime Commissioner in 2021, England and Wales Police and Crime Commissioner elections. He is an Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, Joint co-lead on substance misuse, and he previously worked in pharmaceutical industry. So like, yes, Liz, this is 100% real, and this is what a cop who works in pharma has to say about weed. You know,
a cop who works in pharma. It's
That's
like
the
that's
fucked
like
up
the
thing you've
worst
ever heard in your
fear.
life.
I can't believe it. I'm seriously like, I am triggered. Thank you for the warning, but again, Jason.
I just love the fact
Savage.
that they have such a crazy habit that they're spending 40 pounds a week. I mean, get the fuck out
I
of
spend
here,
40
bro.
pounds a day.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Easy.
Shut the fuck up. My house is spotless. My dog.
But what
is
about the
fucking
nappy
well
I see
taken
in the
care of.
corner?
My life is good, and I smoke that much daily. Like,
I mean,
that's not the
in all-
reason that you wouldn't take care of your children. If that was actually happening, and we don't want to make light of the fact that somebody wasn't taking care of their fucking children, but
No.
like, that's not because of weed.
That's
That
definitely
wasn't
not because of weed. That's because of like meth.
Bro, I mean, it could be like
That's-
severe
sounds like
depression.
some
that
meth
got-
shit
Yeah,
to
mental
me.
disorder.
Real life mental disability and severe depression,
Depression,
are
Yeah.
like, are you fucking
Yeah.
kidding me? And like,
I'm
nobody ever says like, oh, and they're on pharmaceuticals. They never say that. You know what I mean? Because that's their HIPAA protected information.
Right.
But it's like,
Well, I'm going to prefer to call this mental illness, okay? Because this has meth written all over it.
I don't know, guys. I'm a single
Oh, Jason.
mom. It's not really done my family too badly. So
I know that you're Mandy, Liz.
Get it, girl.
You guys are, Rico, like everyone. No.
You won't find a nappy in the corner of my house. You might find a bong,
No.
okay?
Fair
And in
enough.
which
Yeah.
case, please change out the filter, and then you can have your smoke. But there are no, it's like, it's just
You put a
such
filter in your bong?
bullshit. I
What
do.
kind of filter do you have in your bong?
It's
Yeah,
a moose
like, I'm
wax.
very,
yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's a little.
We have to talk. We have to use our voices, and if we don't use a filter, Nicole, you probably got my
So,
back
like the
on this one.
raspier voice,
We sound-
like, that's sexier though. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but
No, 'cause that's what we want
It's gonna
for
get
you,
worse
Rico, to
as
be
you get older.
sexy.
That eventually you sound like Marge.
Yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
sound
You,
like
you
Marge.
just reach that point. You know, you gotta reach that point. You gotta know when to stop.
make it
When
hot
your voice
now,
gets sexy
Jason
enough,
back.
and then you just turn into, old ass nasty cigarette smoking
Yeah.
lady.
I'm just
I'm
trying to
Jason.
preserve, which is why I keep cannabis in my life. Okay, I'm just trying to preserve.
I'm pretty confident that my kids would
Best weed in the
testify
world.
in contrary to your article too, Jason. Their
Shout
life
out to
See what I'm
doesn't
saying?
Crack.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, shout out to Green Crack. It's fucking good weed. People love to buy it. And it's a
40
lot safer
pounds
than.
for 40 quid a week.
I actually got yelled at by a customer like a decade ago for having green crack for sale at my dispensary because I was perpetuating stereotypes. And I was like, fuck. So ever since then, Green Queen is an alternative name that you'll often see on green crack in other places. And so just to like not offend anybody, I've deferred to Green Queen when possible. And
The
you don't
breeder,
see-
named it Green Crack, and so you've now offended the breeder by
I
changing
don't
his
care,
name.
bro. I don't give a
Just
fuck
saying.
about
Yeah,
the
people
breeders.
get
mad
I
at
give a
Durban
fuck
poison
about people
because
who-
it
who
says
are trying to
poison in it.
recover. I give a fuck about people who are trying
Breeders
to recover.
matter. Breeders matter. Just saying.
Breeders' lives matter.
Yeah.
BLM. Is that what you-
Bro,
BLM.
Call Kanye on that. Call Kanye on that. You guys want to have that conversation. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Let's keep it
my
Oh,
right.
that was
God.
good, Rico. Let's keep it moving.
As a felon, I was laughing at this shit. As a felon, she just dedicated her life to paying knowledge forward. Learned in a cold Colorado cell where she earned the nickname Jail Google because of her encyclopedial knowledge database of dirtbag psychology. She never wants you to end up in the same place, so she became an agriculture efficiency and compliance expert, working with some of the best in the game. And for those looking to sidestep becoming another statistic. Up next, you guys know who it is. The self-described general data bitch herself, Nicole West. It's Wednesday morning. What you got for us?
Woo, 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 woo. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for that amazing introduction, Rico. As a felon, I do have a lot of opinions that made me worried for the way that people can be treated in this industry and how quickly we can get everything go wrong really quickly. And I want to remind everybody as I get into all of these conversations to remember, this is still a federally illegal substance, okay? And if they want to federal level, the state government can turn you over and say, hey, they didn't follow our state regulations, so none of this shit counts under our guise. This is your shit now. So keep that in mind. My headline today is coming out of Detroit, and I've been seeing some shit in Michigan over the years, but this one I think tops it for me. So a Detroit medical marijuana dispensary is suspended by the state, which is the first time that this has specifically happened, and fined $75,000, which I think is a little low compared to some of the other fines that have existed throughout Michigan's regulated history. There's been some really big financial fines. So the number I think is low, but like I said, this is they actually suspended their license. So there's a Detroit medical marijuana dispensary that's been suspended for operating for the next 30 days by the state's regulatory agency for mishandling the product, licensing officials have said. So basically what happened was they brought this product in. There was a bunch of bags when an investigator came in that did not have metric tags. And so for those of you who don't know what a metric tag is, it's a little blue sticker or a little blue tag. The sticker goes on products or clones, and then the hard tags go on plants, and so they're waterproof. The stickers are supposed to go with material as it gets transferred from place to place throughout the state. All of those tags are what's called RFID. Those RFID tags, radio frequency identification device, all have a little metal strip on the inside. That metal strip has a radius of about 60 feet when they're using a gun to see what's available in the facility. So every inspector throughout every state in the US that is using metric at this point has a cool little Honeywell device. It's a handheld computer device, and they can push a little button, and that button will say how many tags are in your building, right? They also have the back end of the software, which is Metric, which is the actual program that runs all of this data. So I get a package of weed, I scan a tag, I attach this tag in the computer system, and that tag goes from place to place to place. Sometimes it'll be retagged, okay? Inspector comes in, packs of weed in the corner, no tags. Well, anybody's going to say, where are the tags, right? Where are your metric tags? So they were like, hey, where are the tags for this? And they were like, some bullshit. No one gave a straight answer. So then they said, okay, well, now we need your camera footage. And they requested the camera footage, to which the dispensary refused. Now they're getting fined, not necessarily for the full in compliance, because they're not even there yet. They're actually in trouble for the fact that they're unable or were unable to provide the actual footage to prove that they were in fact not trapping out of their store. So now the investigation continues. This is just the beginning of the process. We're actually going to see, and I'm going to follow this, because this is the shit that I've been talking to people about everywhere I go. This is something that will start happen. It is now, the inspectors are not as stupid as they were 5 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. People are being hired now that actually know what they're doing as these inspectors, and they're going to start asking you real fucking questions and ask you for your camera footage. Almost every single state, all of the regulated states throughout the U.S. requires a 90-day retention on camera footage of everything in the fucking building. So they can come and ask you for your footage at any point. Some cities like Santa Barbara and San Jose actually have access into your fucking camera footage live at all times. And you have to give them API access to that in some cities, which is pretty crazy and big brotherish me. But I'm super excited to see something actually move forward in this. And I'm hopeful that people start to use these moments as moments to clean their shit up, stop doing this with their regulated business, because at the end of the day, it's going to get worse. This is just the beginning. It's just the first domino in the process, because here's what happens. Nobody operates alone. Like we talked about the other day, there's no individual politician just doing one shitty little politician thing. It's a network. So once one domino crumbles, they just start falling and falling and falling. So be conscious. If you were part of this traptastic adventure that was a part of those pounds, be aware that you might be next to get an investigation. And I'm super curious to see what everyone on the stage has to say. I know there's a lot of experience with people asking for camera footage on this stage. So super curious what everyone has to say. I'm Nicole, getting high at 9 with you guys.
I'm just wondering, Nicole, let's just say we were at the airport and there was some luggage that didn't have any tags. What would happen to that?
What do you mean? Because that's like when they call the bomb
That's the
squad.
same.
If a
it's
luggage,
that's my whole point. It's the same. It's the same thing. You get a crazy governmental reaction for not
Oh,
having
yeah,
tags
you're
on
right.
your bags.
You're right.
okay?
They're like, this is
So you
ours!
should not expect that in the cannabis world when it happens in many other industries in the real world.
And I also make sure that people understand. They're like, oh, it's not feasible for you to put the tag on everything. You just have to have a tracker to go to the tag. So like you can make little stickers that say the tag number and put it small. You could write the number. It's like 23 digits, so it'd be really annoying to write. But like you could write it. You just have to have an identifier on the package. You could put it all into a tote, close that shit up, and label that. You know, like there's a bunch of different ways. We have to be able to walk into a facility. Everyone who has a regulated business, if I can't walk into your building and grab something and be able to identify it through the metric track and trace and your POS or whatever version of a software you have, you failed. You failed.
We have Stanley Shelby up from the audience in Clubhouse. Shelby, do you have something on this comment, Shelby?
I do, because what we're seeing in Nevada is 3, if not, actually it's like tenfold as to what's happening. And I understand that, yes, we should be using these as a chance to get our shit right. We've all been doing this for quite some time in Nevada. I've been doing this for 8 years, operational for 7. But the astronomical fees that are being issued here in the state of Nevada are absolutely unfeasible for a business to continue to even operate. And most of which that they're going after are businesses that are under a certain square footage because they only have X amount of employees to even handle that capacity. And then what is also to be considered is that the NRS or regulation they refer to that says they can charge us when they do audits and inspection, yes, is present, but also says that it puts into consideration how the business is operating money-wise, financially. So to issue a company recently, no names mentioned, a $750,000 fine locally, that was on top of what is called a time and effort bill. So while they audited you and inspected you for however long, one client of mine has been under audit for 8 months. Every month they receive a time and effort bill upwards of $8,000 to $10,000. And that again does not include the final outcome, which is your fee or fine. And they're issuing up to $750,000 in fines and fees. So as I do agree with you that this is, people need to get their shit together. We, especially in Nevada, we're handed a rule book to follow. It is becoming excessive here, and to the point in which where a lot of people that I unfortunately are not going to be able to sustain. And again, it's very interesting to me the size in which they're going after auditing, as we have tons of outdoor, lots of greenhouse, 500,000 square foot indoor, but yet all the fines we're seeing issued are to facilities that are about 30,000 and under. So it seems to me as though as well that the state is also picking and choosing what they have the capacity for, and that is reflecting poorly on our industry. So now what you've seen in Nevada is not only a decline in the market, but now people are having a hard time even trying to pay their bills or their employees or anything for that matter because of time and effort and fines and fees. So it's just extremely excessive. And then in regards to earlier,
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. We're super short on time. We have to hop to our commercial, Shelby. Thank you so much for that comment, though. And I definitely agree. And I will say, I consult in a lot of states, and I refuse to work in Nevada. So it's one of the only states I won't consult in.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. $750,000 fine.
I won't consult in Nevada for a few reasons, because all the good shit is basically managed by gangsters. Had like straight fucking like you'll end up in the Maricopa Desert if you're not careful conversations from people. So like I just
gangsters with the R,
hear these stories.
with a hard R.
It's just all
Not
gangsters.
Yeah, I was like, wait,
it's
what?
all gangsters. Yeah, hard R. Good one, Rico. Yeah, they're all gangsters though, right? It's crazy that they're the scariest of them all, but not.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. It is now that time, you guys. That is right. Whoa, There you are. Welcome to Los Ashes, the headiest city in America. Los Ashes is a 10-pound smokable city curated and created by the world-renowned Roller Weavers. In the past, Weavers has amazed cannabis lovers with his roll jobs, such as a 5-pound smokable rocket launcher, along with a 10-pound Darth Vader. But now Weavers is rolling an entire city. Have your business featured in Los Ashes with a ton of different sponsorship opportunities available. Contact Weavers at smokablecity.com for more sponsorship information.
Thoughts and opinions in general shade thrown on the Hyatt 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in a country, territory, area, or its authorities. Views expressed in this room do not establish future relationships. Our sponsors do not constitute endorsement by us, the expression of any opinion whatsoever by any part of any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. Also, smoke more weed.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get Hyatt 9 for 10% off your full order.
Our next correspondent is the CMO of industry-focused event ticketing and promotion platform that changed the game for the better when Eventbrite literally and figuratively did not want that smoke. Event High. But also she's the co-host and founder of groundbreaking professional women in cannabis networking series Blunt Brunch. And glad to have her today because she is a California defector. Adelia Carrillo, what you got for us today?
Good morning. That should be a commercial right there for Event High, Rico. Today's article. So this is called Farmgate Program in BC aims to support rural and indigenous cannabis growers. British Columbia recently announced it's joining other provinces in allowing cannabis producers to sell products on site, along with potentially opening the door to product sampling and on-site consumption. Starting at the end of November. Now, under the new regulation, cultivators who are interested can apply for the producer retail store, the PRS license, which would let them sell their own cannabis at their production sites. Now, what some are calling a farm gate program, these licenses aim to support the development of a robust, diverse, and sustainable legal cannabis economy that is inclusive of Indigenous and rural communities. This is from a press release from the BC's Public Safety and Solicitor General. Also in this release, the Mike Farnworth, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, stated the 4th anniversary of the legalization of cannabis in BC is around the corner, and we continue to look for ways to support the growth of the legal market while providing safe and accessible options for British Columbians. Now, for those who are actually considering applying, there is an application fee which costs $7,500, along with the first-year licensing fee and the annual renewal fee, which are both $1,500. With these licenses, people will be eligible to register for the BC Liquor Distribution Branch, the LDB, which is the PRS Direct Delivery Program, and it is limited to the sale of cannabis produced by the cultivator to the PRS. So those that are familiar with the BC, this actually does differ from the larger direct delivery program, which features size-specific eligibility requirements and enables the sale of cannabis to any licensed and authorized cannabis retail stores in the BC. The article also notate that with this announcement, the LDB will be consulting with stakeholders, and they're actually looking at the opportunity to hold events on these sites of the production facility, as well as potentially allowing for on-site consumption and production sampling. In the article, you do hear from a few cultivators who find this announcement welcoming. Glen Valley CEO Paul D. Thomas has stated, "We've been looking forward to farm gate programs for a while. Having a store will let us showcase our products in a way that is more personable, more face-to-face than what we currently are doing now." He also spoke a little bit more about, the marketing restrictions for Canadian cannabis producers and how they're so restricted, and that obviously, which we are seeing here in the States, those that have more well-known brands with deeper pockets can attract customer attention, while the smaller cultivators have to struggle for brand recognition. Also notated, when looking at other provinces, Ontario and New Brunswick, Farmgate seems to be a popular program, while in Alberta, the Alberta Gaming Liquor and Cannabis Commission licenses cannabis retail stores. they focus on selling cannabis at licensed cannabis production facilities, but only as separate entities, and with the direct consumer sales overseen by the Alberta Gaming, Liquor, and Cannabis Commission. Now, the one final note is they did also notate about, and I'm going to butcher this. So, Jason, I'm going to go to you on this because you always correct me. Is it Shashka Tuin?
Oh, fuck, I know this too. And I'm going to murder it too because
Is
I don't
it
have it.
Saskatchewan?
Yes, there we go.
Yes.
Saskatchewan. Yes.
There we
Yes.
go.
Thank you, Liz.
Baby.
Yes.
Adopted a farm gate program back in June, but currently there are reportedly no cannabis retail stores open at cultivation sites. So with that being said, I'd love to hear from my fellow correspondents. What are your thoughts on Farmgate? Do you feel this is a good route for British Columbia to move towards? And this is Adelia reporting live for the High on 9 News Hour.
Farmgate. I think it's a fun name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's interesting that we have such drastic conversations about like this place, as far as how BC is going to handle, like just in general, they're with weed. But I think as a whole, the conversation of how are we going to save Canadian weed, and I would just say grow better
Who
weed.
wants to save Canadian weed in the first place?
Grow better weed.
Yeah,
I mean,
Canadians
yeah.
want to save Canadian weed,
Canadians
eh?
do.
all
And they
blue.
You
deserve
know, give
it.
them, they deserve it. Yes, they've got great growers and they're
They
great
did-
people.
Whoa, slow, whoa,
We just
whoa,
need to
whoa.
figure out how to grow better
Hey.
weed.
No, not buying none of that, Liz. Not
They-
buying none of
they-
what you're selling.
They have good
Texans and
farmers.
Canadians got
They have
You
good
must
farmers.
think you must
I love
think
American
Canada
spice.
has good weed because all you get to smoke
Yeah.
is what's in Texas.
I don't know. You think Canadians would have-
until I bust through the doors of your
Hey,
dispensary.
exactly.
So,
Who has better
whatever.
Delta 8, Canada or Texas?
Texas
Jesus,
for
oh,
sure.
God.
Texas for sure.
Texas,
No,
yeah, Texas for
100%.
sure. Texans are so innovative, much more so than Canadians. But this is about Canada, and also, you know, Farmgate and tribal relations. I mean, all of this is so interesting, you know. But I think Nicole brings up the bigger question: is how are you going to solve the problem of Canadian weed?
Oh,
Like, how do
yeah.
you see it? What is
Well, the problem
as
is,
you see it?
on the
the
Catholic
problem
Church.
is Canadian weed in the first place, but we have to move on. Coming up next, she's a cannabis storyteller and advocate from the Lone Star State. She's the co-founder of Grow House Media, and you can find her weekly on her podcast Feminized, where she interviews the dopest women in the cannabis space, and you can find her on YouTube and everywhere else you listen to your podcasts. Is none other than the Liz Grow.
Ah, that felt good. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Thank you. Boy, do I have a home run for you today, folks. Okay. This story comes from the Marijuana Moment, and it's written by my favorite reporter, Kyle Yeager. And it's Cannabis Company and Major League Baseball signed deal for Charlotte's Web to be the official CBD of the MLB. So the Major League Baseball has reportedly signed this deal with plans to promote the business at the upcoming World Series. So this is happening. Charlotte Webb's Holdings is one of the most recognizable hemp-derived CBD brands in the country, and they signed a deal to be the official CBD of the MLB, Sports Business Journal reported. So this is happening, and it's a big deal for a lot of reasons. You know, the MLB has been really progressive among the more among sports leagues in general, the major sports leagues in the US, when it comes to marijuana and CBD. You know, they've usually been on the forefront. So this new development comes about 4 months after it was reported that the MLB started allowing baseball teams in the league to sell sponsorships to cannabis companies that market CBD products as long as they meet certain criteria. At the time, the Sports Business Journal reported that a team could only sell a CBD sponsorship if a prospective company was certified by NSF International, a consumer safety and product testing organization that sports leagues use. And the club would also need to receive authorization from the MLB's commissioner's office to sell CBD. Okay. It's really, really interesting because, you know, the league also, it said that at the time it was teaming with NSF International to analyze and certify, legal contaminant-free CBD products in order to allow teams to store them on club premises. But it's unclear if this latest development is directly related to that collaboration. but an update built upon the MLB's decision in 2019 to remove cannabis from the league's list of banned substances. Before that rule change, players who tested positive for THC were referred to mandatory treatment and failure to comply, and it carried a fine of up to $35,000. Thankfully, that penalty is gone now, and the policies are the result of negotiations between the MLB and its players' union. Both parties agreed to approach the league's drug policy with an emphasis on treatment rather than penalties. And so players who tested positive for opioids or cocaine, for example, will be penalized only if they refuse treatment. So I think that was a very big move for the MLB to even go so far as to recommend that treatment for all kinds of drugs, not just cannabis here. But a number of athletic governance bodies have recently relaxed rules around cannabinoids as laws change and medical applications become more widely accepted. The UFC announced last year that they would no longer be punishing fighters over positive marijuana tests. So there's an opportunity across sports, says the UFC Global Partnerships Director Paul Enciso. I don't think every team will have a CBD partner, but probably every league will. It's just a really good connection and marketing platform because professional athletes are using these products and will continue to. Okay, so the NCAA recently relaxed their laws, and then, the conversation really came into, I think, the national fore when Sha'Carri Richardson was suspended from the Olympics over that positive THC test that she admitted to smoking THC in a legal state after her mother passed. So anyway, I'm so interested to hear about what my fellow correspondents and the hosts have to say about this most recent deal between Charlotte's Web and the MLB and just, CBD, marijuana, and sports in general. I mean, it's always a part of the conversation. I've been an athlete all my life, and I wish that I knew about the benefits of cannabis earlier. So now I use cannabis before every workout, and that is very true. So I want to talk to you guys about that too. I'm Liz Groh, and I'm getting high at 9 with y'all from deep in the heart of Texas.
Charlotte's Web also just signed a deal with Southern Wine and Spirits, which is the second largest alcohol distributor in the United States. So that was 7 days ago. And then I'm saying, guys, ATF is taking this shit. Watch.
ATF is taking it. Say more about that. Say more about that.
I had no idea, so you brought that up, to Nicole.
The largest distributor of alcohol in the United States is finally willing to distribute CBD. I'm saying, follow the money. Rico says it all the time. People with money know what's happening in politics before the rest of us normies do. Like, follow the money. They're doing it. Southern Wine and Spirits has big lobby bucks. They wouldn't be fucking jumping on this like that. The MLB, they would not be doing this
because that's where the most beer is consumed. Because it's so damn boring.
So we have two speakers from Clubhouse. We have Troy and Anna Mead. 20 seconds or less. Both Troy first, 20 seconds, followed by Anna, 20 seconds.
You said it perfect. Follow the money. It's amazing that all of a sudden Charlotte's Web that's everywhere and every dispensary everywhere. It's just only certain privileged contracts. It's amazing.
It is. It's
go ahead, Anna.
Like baseball has a million games too. Million.
Hold on. Let's Anna speak real quick. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, really quick. I saw a case study by like the CFO or the CEO of Charlotte's Web and how she built that story for the Stanley Brothers and how she marketed that brand. And they are now in CVS. You can't get any more accepted than being in CVS on the stores. So I think they've really positioned their brand to make this jump. So I'm very, I'm excited for them, I guess.
They were on CNN.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna. That was a case study that Sanjay Gupta was using, wasn't it? With them originally?
Yep. They were one of the ones that Sanjay Gupta followed. They were they have all of like the Charlotte's Web strain is one of the most, that cultivar is one of the most sought after CBD high-end cultivars. That was like AC/DC and Charlotte's Web and a couple others. But yeah, I mean, they've been positioning themselves and marketing themselves correctly since day one. They've been running it like a business. There has been some compassion. There's been a lot of business, but there has been some compassion. I've seen some cool shit that they've done. I won't shit on them completely, but let's watch what happens when Southern Wine and Spirits is their distributor.
CBD, man. CBD for the win. That is the true gateway drug.
We got to move. We got to go to the next story.
Let's keep it popping. Our next correspondent is the co-founder of Camilla Canagram in the women's cannabis competition and head of brand relations at Conception Nurseries. She prides herself in being a crusader for female cannapreneurs that loves showing the world weed, motherhood, and executive lifestyle that comes with being an industry boss lady do indeed go together, despite what prohibitionists in the lamestream media just might tell you. Come to the stage next. It's Mandy Tingler. What you got for us today, Mandy? Good to see you.
Hey guys, hey. So this one is a article that really rings true for all folks who have brands out there in the market and doing cannabis. The article is called "California Expands Largest U.S. Illegal Pot Eradication Effort." With California's 4-year-old legal marijuana market in disarray, the state's top prosecutor said Tuesday that he will approach the disrupting illegal pot farms that undercut the legal economy and so widespread environmental damage. The statement is nearly 4-decade multi-agency seasonal eradication program, the largest in the U.S., that this year scooped up nearly 1 million marijuana plants into a year-round effort aimed who is behind the illegal grows. The new program will attempt to prosecute underlying labor crimes, environmental crimes, and underground economy centered around illicit cultivations. He called it, quote, an important shift in mindset and mission, aimed also at aiding California altering legal market by removing the dangerous competition. Illicit marketplace outweighs the legal marketplace, Fonta said. It's upside down, and our goal is to complete eradicate market. In keeping with this new approach, the annual campaign, the marijuana planting, or CAMP program, started under Governor Duke Majan in 1983, will become of permanent action and prevention of illicit cannabis task force, or EPIC, Fonta said. It began in a very different time, different era, a different moment during the failed war on drugs, and at a time when cannabis was still entirely. The seasonal eradication program, which lasts about 90 days each summer, will continue with the coalition of other federal, state, and local agencies. They include the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, National Park Service, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, California State Park, California National Guard, some of which will also participate in the new task force, he said. Quite the team. The task force will work with the State Department of Justice, prosecute the Department of Cannabis Control section, and existing tax recovery in the underground economy, TRUE task force that was created by law with the goal of criminal cases against those behind illegal. So I'm pretty excited about this and also sad about this in a lot of ways. I don't want to see people who are making medicine get in trouble, but also if they're harming the environment and if they are completely and totally disrupting what we are trying to do in the marketplace by providing good quality, safe medicine to people, then I'm all for it. What say you, team?
Camp is trash, but we definitely need to eradicate a lot of the bullshit. That definitely is some fuck shit happening with some of these illegal farms and the way that humans are being treated. Like, outside of that, I could give two shits what people were doing with their fucking time and their weed plants. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that the people are all being treated with the respect and the like human decency that they deserve. But Camp doesn't do that. That's not what fucking Camp
don't they have
a know what Camp
yeah,
does.
They need a full rebrand. They need a full rebrand.
Yeah. Somebody
I mean, they just got a whole big juicy round of funding.
Right. Like they need some fucking marketing prowess and do a rebrand of that shit, because Camp brings nothing up but dumbass like war on drugs memories and triggers the shit out of people that were getting hit up by them up north. Period. Anybody in the industry, like Jason, so anybody in the industry, like
I think this is actually a perfect segue to hit our last correspondent today. While we're sitting here bitching about Camp, we're gonna go ahead and bring I think that's
campfire.
perfect. We're gonna bring Dale Schaefer up. Dale Schaefer is a 35-year practicing attorney with 23 years in cannabis specifically. Dale is a former member of Club Fed, serving 52 months for cultivation and intent to distribute to a handful of terminally ill patients. He started Adventure and is the co-owner of the California Medical Research Center and is now a founding partner of Armada Law Corp. Dale, what do you have for us today?
Well, good morning. Thank you, everybody. Mine comes from Law 360, and it has to do with the Cushy Punch litigation that was filed a couple of years ago. It seems that the state's asking for $128 million in fines and penalties. So we mentioned earlier 75,000. Oh my God, I'm horrified. $128 million for unlicensed distribution and manufacturing. Now, this comes in a series, in a place in a case that's called discovery, where you're asking questions the other side. And it seems that the defendants pulled an Alex Jones and told him to fuck off. I'm not going to tell you anything. And so what the state did is filed a motion for what we call summary judgment. There's no tribal issue of fact. We caught him red-handed. We want him to just go to being fined. And then just on Monday, they filed a motion asking that these defendants not be allowed to say anything now. They wouldn't answer. They're dilatory since January. We refused to answer. So they want a finding that they can't respond to this motion for summary judgment with any facts because they refused to give up information about how much they were earning. Now, as a little bit of a background here, under our regulations, if you're caught in unlicensed activity, you could be fined up to three times the annual licensing fee per day for everything that you're doing. So what we have here is two unlicensed facilities with two separate licenses or potential licenses. So one annual license is $75,000. So if you triple that per day, and they've drawn a line of about a year that they can substantiate they were doing this unlicensed activity. So they want to do for an entire year $75,000 a day times three for one of these facilities, and for the other, it's up to $240,000 a day, because that's the annual distribution license if you're really cranking out millions of dollars. Now, I mentioned this because this is going to bring up another subject that I'm going to be talking about for a long time, is that these are unreasonable fines. Under our 8th Amendment of the Constitution, you cannot unreasonably fine people. Now, this was brought back to my attention. I teach a class at Oaksterdam, and in 2009, the Supreme Court issued a decision, what they call Thames versus Indiana. Some guy had $300 or $400 worth of smack in his car. They took his $40,000 car, and he could prove he bought it without drug money. So the Supreme Court said, no, this is an excessive fine. It's applied to this activity. This is a civil forfeiture, and we're going to vitiate the fine. Now, Clarence Thomas, he had a separate opinion that I didn't even pay much attention to, but the recent Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade mentions this Thames case repeatedly as why they overturned Roe versus Wade. Okay. And so what this has to do is, how does the amendments to the Constitution apply if you have a state doing something that violates them? Because the 14th Amendment uses what they call privileges and immunities from the Constitution. They got to apply to everybody. And what the court used was due process. And Clarence Thomas was screaming, this ain't process. This is substantive law. It violates the constitutional amendments. Therefore, it's privileges and immunities. Didn't even occur to me that this was something that's going to be coming up. But that's exactly how they overturned Roe versus Wade. So I bring this up because we'll be talking about this 8th Amendment excessive fine thing as the state and these local jurisdictions especially try to stick you for tens of thousands of dollars a day in fines for shit that you didn't even do. Okay, we've got these up in Humboldt where somebody 2 years ago grew weed on your property, and you buy a piece of property, you get hit with a fine. These guys want $128 million for illegal manufacturing and distribution. I don't know how you don't throw an illegal fine in there, an excessive fine in as part of the argument when you fight against this. So I bring this up because this is going to be mentioned more than one time by me, because these guys are basically fucked. They got caught red-handed. There's no defense. They told the state to pound sand. We're not going to give you an answer. And it's just like Alex Jones complaining. I don't get to say anything. Yeah, you dumb shit. You should have said something when the judge told you to produce your evidence, or you're going to be precluded from saying anything. And now it's going to be an argument. How much are they going to owe?
Dale, they were at Hall of Flowers because that company is Cushy Punch, and they were at Hall of Flowers. They had a big ass booth, and so the idea that they're not findable, I think, is ironic because I found them. They were right there, fucking four booths.
Well, they know they've been served. So if you try to run, you can run, but you can't hide. They'll find your ass somewhere. And they were a nonprofit mutual benefit when they got popped. I think if they're smart, they're moving.
Oh, so this is their for-profit entity, not the entity.
Yeah. Well,
the right hand feeds the left.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I had a bunch of those cases. I called them shit sandwiches. A nonprofit mutual benefit in a for-profit industry is a shit sandwich. I've had a few of those, and there's just no way to go where you got to win. You tell your clients, bend over, dude. I got some lube for you because this is not going to go well.
Yes.
First name Ben. Well, thank you for that, Dale. Holy
that was
shit.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Dale,
And
bring the
I
heat
see
on day
Sean-
one.
I
just
see
can't wait.
Sean's up here commenting. I represent Weed for Warriors, and he calls him the old dude. But this dude, if he's got a soft D, he's an old dude already. So
Oh.
you'll hear from Sean. So
What about the
he calls-
curvature,
I'm an
Dale?
old corpsman.
What?
I tell these old vets to sit down and shut the fuck up. Take your psilocybin
Oh,
mushrooms,
my
smoke your
goodness.
weed, and avoid the VA.
Yeah, Dale, you're the
Oh,
best. Thank you so
Dale.
much for
Thank
Get
you
joining
it,
for
Dale.
having me.
Oh
That
yeah.
was
Yeah.
awesome.
Man, I
You
can't wait
guys
to
can
see what
catch
happens
Dale
with this 8.
and all of us.
Yes.
I really
Man,
can't
I'm
see
so
what
excited.
waits
Yeah,
to
me-
happen with this. This is going to be interesting.
I'm excited
Yes,
to see it
indeed.
too. So yeah, thank you for joining us, Dale. You can catch Dale every Wednesday on the High at 9, and the rest of us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to our supporters and our sponsors and the haters for still talking about us. For all the cast and crew and everyone getting high at 9 with us.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamite, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.